لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ما لنا رب سواه.
One of the greatest blessings that Allah has given us as Muslims, us as human beings, whether you are rich, whether you are poor, everyone has this one blessing. And that blessing is time. One of the greatest blessings we have been given, yet we have no value for it. One of the most precious assets that we have been gifted with, yet we have no value for it. Allah swears by time, wal-asr, by the token of time. Innal insana lafi khusr. Verily, man is in loss. By time, man is in loss. What does this mean? If we have an exam the next day, would we spend this day wasting our time? Only a mindless individual will spend that day before the exam wasting it by watching TV or playing games or whatever it is. But one with an ounce of intelligence will make use of that day, will make use of the time that he has. Why? Because he knows he's going to struggle if he doesn't. If you have been given a task to complete with a certain deadline, within a certain period of time, we will do whatever we can to make sure we complete this task by that deadline, or even before the deadline. This life of ours is a test in itself, and within it there is multiple tasks. Multiple tasks to do good. Constantly Allah gives us trials and tests and tribulations which we need to pass to be successful. We only have a limited time in this dunya. Yet why is it that we don't have that sense of urgency? Just like if we had that exam tomorrow, we would have that sense of urgency. Why is it that we don't have such a feeling about this test that we are living in? There is no retakes, there is no resits. It's a one-off. You either pass or you fail. If we know that we can never do this test again, if we know that we can never take this test again, why is it that we waste this valuable time that Allah has gifted us with? They say that the idle mind is the devil's workshop. Whenever you have free time, whenever you have nothing to do, that's the trap of shaitan. He uses that opportunity to reel you into his manipulations. He uses that idle mind to attack and pounce and pull the strings in your heart to do that which he wants you to do. He diverts you away from that which matters when you have free time. Because when we have free time, we think, what shall I do? What do I do with this free time that I have? And most of the time, we spend it in things that are not beneficial for us. Time is running out, my brothers. Time is slipping out of our hands. Remember the example that I gave last week with the man hanging onto the rope with the black and the white mouse nibbling on the rope? That's our life. And sooner or later that rope will be cut. Sooner or later. So we need to make the most of the time that we have in this dunya. Live every day as if it's your last day. If you live in the morning, don't expect to live to the evening. If you make it to the evening, don't expect to wake up in the next morning. Live every moment as if it's your last. Make sure you make most of that moment. Make sure you make most of that last day of yours. While time is running out, we spend on useless things. We spend it chasing after a woman. We spend it sitting in front of a TV for endless hours. That's one of the greatest sources or weapons that shaitan uses, the television itself. So much haram. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that TV is haram as a whole, because there are some beneficial programs which you don't ever bother watching. We'd rather go for that which entertains us, that which is full of haram. Over over the years, the sexual content that has been displayed in front of our eyes has increased dramatically over the past few years. Even an advertisement for something as simple as deodorant requires the use of a woman being used as an object. Why a woman? Because media knows, the society knows, the whole world knows that the greatest desire for man is women. And they use this to reel our attention into it. And day after day we are being fueled. These desires are being fueled by these images that we are constantly looking at. These programs that we are constantly watching. I haven't even touched on the programs, whether it's Family Guy or Big Bang Theory or Star Plus or whatever you want to watch. Whatever pleases you. We waste our time on these things. You know, some may say that these programs aren't haram. Everyone has the right to opinion. Use this formula to judge whether something is haram or not, whether that program is haram or not. First and foremost, would you watch this particular program in front of your parents? Is it one of those programs where you hear someone about to come in and you quickly change the channel? Is it one of those? If it is, then there's a problem. If not, fair enough, take the next step. If you have the likes of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Amirul Mu'mineen, Khalid bin Walid, the sword of Allah, Uthman, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, the man of modesty, may Allah be pleased with all of them. If they were to be sitting in the same room as you, watching the same television, would you display that program? Would you allow that program to even be watched by them? If so, then take the next step. If the best of creations, the most beloved to Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was to sit in the same room as you, was to sit right next to you on that sofa, on that couch, would you watch that program? And chances are you won't, with most of these programs. So clearly there's a problem with what we are watching. There's something, whether it's even one scene of this movie or program, whatever it is, whether it's only a small essence that is haram, there's a problem. Because that little bit affects us. It affects our heart. And we don't even realize it. You know that black spot that grows in our heart? That's what it is. That's what it causes. Bunch of little spots that grow in our heart cause our hearts to become hardened. But really, do we need this formula? Do we really need this formula to judge whether a program is haram or not? When we are forever being monitored by the angels beside us. They record everything that we do. Have we become oblivious to that fact? Have we become heedless that Allah is forever watching us? He sees everything that we see. He hears everything that we hear, and He knows every action that you do. Inna Allaha khabirun bima ta'malun. He is fully aware of the actions that you do. Fully aware, nothing gets past Him. No, time is like a sword. If you don't use it to cut, it will cut you. If you don't use it to cut, it will cut you. If you don't use your time correctly, sooner or later we will be in loss. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Man is in loss by time if we don't use it correctly. Now, how is it that we can delay our salah, the most important ritual, or the most important act of worship that we have to engage ourselves in? You know, we delay our salah because we're in the middle of watching a show. We delay our salah because we haven't finished our conversation with our girlfriends or friend. We delay our salah because we're in the middle of playing a game. Delaying our salah, the most important act of worship, for what? For nothing. All it is nothing but deception, isn't it? You know, before we go to sleep, how many of us tell ourselves, you know, I wish I had a six-pack, instead of thinking, I wish my life was better. I wish I used my time correctly. I wish my deen was all it is about my life. I wish my iman was stronger. How many of us do this? How many of us contemplate about our iman? About the condition of our deen, the condition of our heart. I don't mean you have to spend every second of your life in dhikr. You can do something. You can spend your time in something that at least is halal but keeps it away from haram. You know, it could be sports, keeps you fit and active to do ibadah or whatever it is. You know, go gym, prepare for jihad. Someone it's a joke. Or some brothers, you know, you can even start cooking if you want. It is a good hobby, you know. It does get interesting at times. And you know, if you get married, inshallah, you can cook for your wife as well. But the point is, do something that will keep it away from doing something that's haram. It doesn't have to be something that's directly to do with the akhirah, something that's directly a worship of Allah. Because anything that we do, if we have the right intention, we can make it ibadah of Allah. You know, the free periods that we have in sixth form, so many free periods that we get, and advice that I really need to act upon myself. You know, we'll sit there and do nothing for an hour. Literally nothing, we'll just sit there talking about nonsense. When we can use those hours beneficially. We can use those hours to revise or do something that will help us, something that will benefit us rather than wasting it. You know, when we waste our time like that, we become lazy. It affects the mind mentally, we become lazy. Lazy to do work, end up failing in school. Lazy to do ibadah, end up failing in our ultimate test. Very few hours remain in the day. Once you exclude everything, sleep, school, everything, very few hours remain in the day for us to use. That spare time, if we use it correctly, it can easily shape our lifestyle, easily allow us to think more positively if we spend those few hours in the right way. You know, in the previous surah, at the end, Allah says, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ, and then you will be asked about the blessings that you were indulged in. The pleasures in your life, you will be asked about them. And one main blessing, the beginning of the next surah, wal-asr, by time. Man is in loss. And the whole of Surah Takathur, the previous surah, Allah talks about people, a certain category of people that pile up their worldly assets, you know, think they're on top of their game. They think they got everything. They think they're successful. In the next surah, Allah instantly says, man is in loss. So we think we're becoming successful in this dunya. We think we're getting somewhere. But in reality, we are in loss and we're only heading towards the hellfire. The more we think we're successful in this dunya, the more we are heading away from Allah. The more we become in loss. Except who? Man is in loss except who? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Except those who believe and those who do righteous deeds. Those two points I want to focus on more. Those who believe and those who do righteous deeds. Can we really class ourselves of those people who do righteous deeds? You know, when was the last time, ask yourselves, when was the last time you opened the book of Allah? When was the last time you woke up for tahajjud and you stood in salah while everyone else was asleep? You were the one standing in front of Allah in tahajjud. When was the last time you done that? How can we ever class ourselves of these salihin? How can we ever class ourselves of those who are successful? You know, we exceed so much to be successful in academia studies, yet we do the bare minimum for the akhirah. We do the bare minimum for that which matters. And Allah says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنَّ الْقُلُوبِ. Only in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts find rest. Only in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts find peace. The whole of last week's bayan was about how we can never be satisfied. When indulging in this dunya, well, the true satisfaction we get is from remembering Allah. Whenever we remember Him, He is the one who grants us such a feeling of peace that no money can buy. No assets in this world can give us. He is the true granter of peace. He is the true source of peace. I've stressed this point many times before. You will never find peace in a girl. Never. You may think you are. Remember the two contradictions in Surah Takathur. Allah says you think you got everything in this dunya, but truly you are in loss. You think this girl is going to be your source of satisfaction, your source of peace? No. It will only cause your destruction. Only in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts find peace. So we need to start from now and make some mental targets of how we're going to fix ourselves up. How we're going to input into our routines actions that will benefit us. Actions of ibadah, whether it's reading the Quran, whether it's watching a righteous lecture, whatever it is, we need to make the targets now, because time is running out, and sooner or later the clock will stop ticking. Sooner or later the heart will stop beating, and sooner or later we'll be made to stand in front of the Almighty Allah.